Now we're going to talk about stateless DHCP in version 6 here for just a few minutes. And speaking of cutting yourself some slack, and here slack stands for Stateless Address Autoconfiguration. Get it? This is a great tool, but we're only going to take an overview of it because the configuration of it is way beyond the scope of the CCENT and the CCNA. But you definitely want to know the fundamentals of how this baby works, and we're going to do that right now. What we have here really are hosts that create their own IP version 6 addresses. They still have to communicate with a server for one very important value, but they can actually create their own version 6 address. Let's see how they do that. The process starts with information that the host received from the router way back during those router solicitation and router advertisement messages. Remember I said, hey, right now at the very beginning, the host just wants the link local address of any routers on the link, but it's going to get more information than that. Well, here's some more info on what the RA contains and one important value that it does not contain. That router advertisement contains a link prefix, the prefix length, and announces that this router can serve as the default gateway, but it does not contain DNS server information, which I think you'll agree with me is a pretty darn important value for it to have. But as far as the address itself goes, all the host has to do is take or tack its 64-bit interface identifier right on the back of a 64-bit prefix, and what do we got? We got a 128-bit IP version 6 address. Now, we know how the interface identifier is created. We know how to do that. We know that the source of it is the MAC address on that interface. So through this process, there's a very good chance that this address is going to be unique on the local link, but we don't want to leave that kind of thing to chance. Instead, what happens is that local host is going to perform what we call the duplicate address detection procedure before using this newly created version 6 address. Now, sometimes throughout all my courses, actually, I give you a quick reminder about acting responsibly in the field, using remark with your ACLs, running on debug all, before you leave a client site, that kind of thing. And I semi-jokingly refer to it as a dad lecture. Well, this is a true dad lecture. It's about DAD, the duplicate address detection procedure, and it's very quick because this is an overall quick process. Basically what happens here is the host tries to talk to itself, and if it succeeds in doing so, there's a problem. Now, to perform DAD, what happens is the host just sends a neighbor solicitation message to its own address. And the destination, again, is the IP version 6 address that host A just created for itself. Then one of two things is going to happen. Either the host that sent the NS receives an NA, which means that another host on the link is already using that address, and the host that sent the NS can't use the address. So that would be a DAD fail, if you will. But if the host that sent the neighbor solicitation message doesn't hear anything back, it says, okay, I didn't hear anything back. It's okay for me to use this new address. And that's really it. It's just a quick, handy little check. The interface runs when it's about to use a version 6 unicast address for the first time, or when an interface that already had an IP version 6 address in use is brought down and then back up for any reason. So this little double check can spare you some big headaches. And again, it's an automatic procedure. We don't have to do anything to make that happen. So, what about DNS? We kind of left that out. What are we going to do about that DNS address? Well, we do need a DHCP server to get the DNS server info to the host. Now, stateless auto configuration does not totally eliminate the need for a DHCP server, but it comes very close. There's a lot less to configure and verify and maintain when the only thing our DHCP servers are responsible for is getting out the word about the DNS server locations. This is extra material here, but RFC 6106 lists RA options for DNS information. That document is way beyond the scope of the exam, but I'd like to give you the opportunity to read a little bit more. It is worth noting that they're working on ways to get DNS information to the host without using a DHCP server. I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow, but by golly, we're working on it. So that is a great comparison of the two DHCPs that we have here in version 6. Again, if you're interested in seeing how this would actually be configured, Cisco has a good doc on it. You can just go out there and do, stateless DHCP, and you'll find some great docs on their website very quickly. When we come back, we are going to step away from these messages and head back to the live equipment for some more labs. We're going to see what pings and trace routes look like on our live version 6 equipment. We'll see that on the next video, and I will see you there.